Welcome to all of you, my dear students. Myself, Venkata Sairaj. My channel name is CA Comrades. Let's explore the knowledge. As we dealt with the chapter number 2 of auditing, I have uploaded two videos relating to it, part 1 and part 2 for chapter 2. Be patient and please listen to it. If you have not learned such chapter or if you have a doubt in such chapter. Okay, now we are going to start our new topic. Our new topic is, here we go. Essay 530, Standards on Auditing 530, Audit Sampling. It is very important, so be patient and have a look at the video. Thank you so much. Let us start our concept. Here we go. We are starting our concept essay 530, my dear students. Essay 530 deals with audit sampling. First, I will read the paragraph, the introduction paragraph, then I will explain each and every bit of audit sampling. As per essay 530, audit sampling refers to application of audit procedures to less than 100% of items of population of audit relevance, such that all sampling units have a chance of selection in order to provide the auditor with a reasonable basis on which to draw conclusions about the entire population. See, this definition as per SA 530 relating to audit sampling is very important. Whenever they will in the exam, if they ask about audit sampling, then yes, this is the definition you need to write. But before by hearting anything, definitely we need to know the concept. Okay na? Do you know the secret of passing CA? Yes, someone say that one person is always by hearting is not a good student, and someone says that if one student knows only the concept, he don't know how to present the answer beautifully, he will not able to pass with good marks. I will say that mixture of both of these students, అంటే the student who has concept as well as the ability to write beautifully in the beautiful text or as per the given textual language, then he shall pass. Okay, Chatur Rancho combination, if you see Three Idiots movie, Chatur Rancho combination shall be there in the student. Chalo, we will come to the concept now. For example, you are an auditor, you are going for the audit of a particular entity, and the audit partner has assigned you a work to perform the audit of the fixed assets, my dear students. When you are see, no, let us take the example of sales, it will be very easy to understand. Okay, chalo, now the audit partner has given you the task to perform audit of the sales. Now what you will do, so for example, the entity is the bank. In the bank there are numerous n number of transactions, sale transactions or something. You will not able to check each and every transaction, yes or no? Yes sir, you will not able to check each and every transaction. For example, the entity for which you have went to audit, they have incurred, suppose example, 10 lakh sales, 10 lakh sales invoices are there for them. You will check all the 10 lakh sales invoices? No sir. Then what you will do, you will select only some of them out of 10 lakhs. Randomly you will select some invoices and start applying audit procedures to it and obtain audit evidence and obtain comfort on what ma, obtain comfort on the assertions. Okay now, audit evidence is always obtained to obtain comfort on what, to obtain comfort on the assertions, my dear students, as I said in the chapter 2 second part video about it. Okay, now audit sampling, you went for performing the audit of sales. In front of you there were 10 lakh invoices. So what you have done, you have first selected few samples. But a question from my side, on what basis you have selected the sample? How you determined that out of 10 lakhs I will check only 200 invoices? Okay, how you are determining that in these 200 invoices these are only the invoices to be I shall check and others I can leave bolke? How you determined it? That is not the way to select the sample like that only. Before selecting the sample you require two more things, my dear students. Yes, an auditor, before selecting a sample of each and every assertion, it might be purchase, it might be sales, it might be fixed assets, it might be any other liability, before performing the audit of it, before selecting the samples for it, we need to do two things, my dear students. Step number 1, we need to determine or assess risk of material misstatement as per SA 315. Afterwards, based on risk of material misstatement, we need to determine materiality as per SA 320. So, how to determine Romum as per SA 315 and how to determine materiality as per SA 320. Separate videos will be given to you from my side. But relating to SA 315, a brief part, more than a brief part, I have already explained in the previous two videos of chapter 2, wherever I have found the word of Romum. Okay. See, if you have seen the video, you may remember the risk assessment procedures we need to do. Okay, now compliance procedures we need to do. By risk assessment procedures, we are understanding the entity, its environment. Okay, now also its internal control. So by entity and environment, we are able to identify inherent risk, then corresponding controls, whether they are strong or not. We are determining inherent risk and corresponding control risk, multiplying the both, we will get the risk of material misstatement, whether high, low, or medium. Then we will also at the same time we shall determine materiality for the sales. For example, what is materiality, sir? Like materiality will be like this, sir. Any sales invoice whose value is exceeding 10 lakhs, I will check only those invoices. Not below 10 lakhs invoices, I will not check. So this 10 lakhs is called as materiality number. Now this 10 lakhs, on what basis you are determining? That process is given in SA 320. In detail process, if you want to know, when you go to articles, especially in big four, you will get able to understand. There is a huge process actually it is not the headache of the article student or audit staff, it is the headache of the partner of the audit firm. Okay, now to determine the materiality and also identifying the romum actually. But you should have a knowledge of it, right? So I have given the knowledge of it. So you need to require materiality and risk of material misstatement in order to do audit sampling. For example, as per SA 315, my risk of material misstatement have been assessed as high. Then my materiality will be low or less, low or high, sorry, it will be low. Why low, Nana? You need to check more number of transactions, right? If it is 10, see, when my materiality is 10 lakhs, more than 10 lakhs invoices I will check. If my materiality has a risk of material misstatement is high, I need to do more checking. If I need to do more checking, the materiality should be low. For example, now I will reduce my materiality to 5 lakhs. It means more number of invoices I am indirectly going to check bulk. Okay, now based upon these two, we will select sample. Okay, na, for selection of sample there are many methods. That methods we are going to select deal with now. Okay, na, chalo. Now again we will read that paragraph, very important. As per SA 530, audit sampling refers to application of audit procedures to less than 100% of items of population of audit relevance, such that all sampling units have a chance of selection in order to provide the auditor with a reasonable basis on which to draw conclusions. There is one point called as chance of selection. See, I have said there are 10 lakh invoices in sales. Each and every invoice of the sales which is in front of you shall have a chance of selection. It means not that, uh, for example, what happen is, you are an auditor. Now you are selecting a sample. Suppose you are selecting a sample like this. For example, I will select the invoices only from April month, July month, August, December, and March. From the rest of the months, I will not select. This is not the proper way of selection of sample. If you are selecting the sample in the given way, whatever I have said, then you only say the months which you have not selected, the invoices in such months don't have a chance of selection only, right? So before selection of audit sample, each each unit in the whole population must have a chance of selection. Are you able to understand it? Yes, must have a chance of selection, so that it provides the auditor with a reasonable basis on which to draw conclusions about the entire population. See, whenever all the units in the population have a reasonable chance of selection, then only after selecting an audit sample, like obtaining sufficient and appropriate audit evidence relating to such invoices or only such a sample, then only based on that you can make a decision upon all the population. For example, out of 10 lakh invoices, you have selected 1000 invoices, and 1000 invoices you have applied audit procedures, obtained the evidences, and you got comfort on the all the five assertions relating to the transaction balances, and afterwards you will take a decision okay, unmodified opinion on only the such 1000 invoices or all on 10 lakh invoices. Yes, on all 10 lakh invoices. So to get to give opinion on whole population, each and every unit in population must have a chance. In like manner you have to select a sample. Okay na? Now population, see at the same time also I am making you revise the textual language also. Okay na? So your time is not at all get wasting at this concept, and reading the textual language, both are going simultaneously, so your time is also okay na, saved here. Now here we go, my dear students. Population, entire set of data from which sample is taken and auditor wishes to draw conclusions on it. A population is nothing but, I said in example, no, there are 10 lakh invoices of sales during the year. So all that 10 lakh invoices is called as population. Nothing but population is a set of data, from which set of data, from which what is selected, from which sample is being taken, and auditor draws conclusion only on sample. No, auditor reaches conclusions on it. It means on the whole population. Nothing is there in population definition. Okay, na? Very simple. Chalo. Let us understand, as per SA 530, what are the characteristic features of audit sampling. See, the sample which an auditor is selecting must must satisfy or have the following features, which we are going to discuss, my dear. First one is appropriate. It means whatever audit sample we have selected from the entire population, the sample must be, all the sample units must be appropriate. The side paragraph we will read. The auditor will need to determine the population from which the sample is appropriate for the audit objective. What did I just say? The auditor will need to determine the population from which the sample is appropriate for the audit objective. It means before selection of the sample from the population, the auditor must obtain audit evidence relating to appropriateness of entire population. Simple example I will give you, my dear students. Very very simple example. Visualize whatever I am saying. Please visualize. See, you are the auditor. Yes or no? Yes. Okay, you are the auditor, and you have asked or requested the management to please give me the sales ledger or and all the sales invoices which has been raised or generated during the year, so that I will verify or I will vouch the transactions of sale transactions. Okay. Now, whatever the information is provided by the management, okay, whatever the invoices they are giving, how, on what basis you will assume that those are appropriate? Are you able to understand? See, the management is putting entire population of sales invoices and sales ledger and entire listing of sales which has been incurred during the year. But on what basis? You determine that whatever information has been given or provided by the management is absolutely true and fair. No, maybe management will deceive you. Yes, they may deceive you. Then how come you blindly believe upon the information provided by them? So before checking the information, you need to know whether the information is provided accurate or not. Okay, na. So what you need to do is you need to obtain audit evidence relating to the appropriateness of the entire population. Sir, how to obtain it? See, how to obtain it is not the question. We should obtain it is the question right now. How to obtain it? You may obtain in any audit procedure by applying your knowledge, but till date you don't know that you need to obtain it, right? So you are learning now, you are learning, you need to obtain it first. You should have a knowledge that before selection of audit sample from the population provided by the management is accurate or not. Okay, relating to that you need to get comfort first. Okay na. Chalo. Next, completeness. The population also need to be complete. For example, if auditor considers sales only up to February, then the population shall be incomplete and conclusions drawn it may not be accurate. Are you able to understand this? Very simple, Nana. See, the population provided by the management. See, that's, yes, obviously it must be appropriate. At the same time, it must also be complete. Yes or no? Yes. If during the year 10,000 sales invoices have been generated in actual, but management is providing only 8,000 invoices as the invoice and trying to hide such 2,000 invoices, then in such case you need to perform certain audit procedures and obtain audit evidence relating to incompleteness of the population and make inquiry with the management of it. So ensure that whatever population is in front of you shall also be complete enough before selection of what? Before selection of audit sampling. Okay? Before selection of audit sampling. I think you're able to understand it. Appropriateness and completeness have been finished. Now, the last characteristic feature of audit sampling is reliable. Reliable. While performing audit sampling, the auditor must ensure that the information from which the sample units are selected must be accurate. See, it is almost equal to appropriateness, my dear students. He is indirectly saying that while performing audit sampling or before performing the audit sampling, the auditor must ensure that the sample units from which the population from which the sample units are being selected are accurate or not. For example, there are certain invoices in the populations which are fake or which are being deflated or inflated. Okay na. High amounts have been recorded or low amounts have been recorded. So before selecting the sample you need to ensure that all are reliable enough. Okay na. So you need to write three characteristic features. So as per SA 530, what are three characteristic features of population? Sir, what are the three characteristic features of population? Sir, the population from which the audit sample is being selected shall be appropriate, shall be complete, and shall be reliable. Okay, na? Car. We can write it as car. Complete, appropriate, and reliable. Population shall be car. Okay, na? Chalo. Now, yeah. Approaches to sampling. Approaches to sampling which not means what, Nana? The methods of selection of sample. See, how much extent of sample to be selected is based on the SA 320 materiality and SA 315 Romum. But how to select so that each and every population unit has a chance of selection. For that we have certain methods, statistical methods we have, and also non-statistical sampling methods also we have. Let us now discuss the first with statistical sampling. Okay na? Here we go. Statistical sampling. Let us read the text given below. Audit sampling. Okay na na na. Audit sampling done through this approach is more scientific than testing entirely on the auditor's own judgment, because it involves use of mathematical laws of probability in determining the appropriate sample size in varying circumstances. I will explain. See, this text is very very important. I'll explain the concept. Again, we will read the text so that we will get the command on the text as well. So, first priority goes to concept only. See, in CA Foundation, okay na, you have studied QA. Yes or no? QA subject was there for you. In the QA subject, statistic chapter was there for you. Yes or no? Yes, sir. In that you have studied okay na, mean, median, mode, okay na, regressions you have studied, standard deviation you have studied, what not, etc., you have studied. All these statistical methods or mathematical laws of probability are there, no? This can be used. These all these methods can be used in selection of the sample out of the whole population. Also, the probability chapter you have learned in QA. Okay, now there are various probability laws you have studied there. Such probability laws can be applied here for the selection of the sample out of the entire population. Do you know? Do you know that in the current scenario we have various computer softwares or programs which automatically select samples and give you? So this is not covered in our ICA textbook, but this is a current scenario. I want to share the knowledge for you all. See, what happens is, especially this is done in big four, my dear students. I don't know about the small firms. Okay, na? Big four audit firms we have. If you don't know the big four audit firms, I will say the name of it: PwC, EY, okay na, Deloitte, and also we have KPMG. These are the four big four firms. Okay, in these four big four firms, what happens is, see, they have a computer program or a type of software, okay na, which helps in determining sample from the entire population. See how this software works, I will say you. See, you have to download the software into your computer or hard disk. After that, please open the software. Please sign up with a Gmail ID or etc. Then what happens is, you need to put the entire population invoice units, whatever the invoice units are there, in electronic form, right? Nowadays all in electronic form, no? Yes, the whole entire population or the entire sales ledger which is appearing to you in the computer, on the computer screen in electronic form, you have to put it in such software. You have to upload such invoices, all the population invoices in the software, and after uploading it, such a software asks you certain queries. You need to answer to such queries. Sir, what are those queries? It will ask you, sir, what is materiality? What is the materiality number? It will ask you how much Romum should be kept, high, low, or medium. It will ask you how many number at least you want to check as a sample. Okay na? And also it will ask any other queries, and you have to click on OK. After clicking OK, like a mixie grinder, it will process all the units in population units and place certain units before you. That units are for checking purposes. That units itself is called as what? Sample. So this software uses all the methods of probability loss. Okay na, it is inbuilt of such probability loss and gives you such sample. How nice it is, yes or no? It is reducing our work also. Okay na, so it indirectly using statistical methods. So you need not learn about regression, etc., to do the audit sampling. The software, just you need to do one thing: please purchase the software. It will only do all the statistical sampling on behalf of you. Okay na? But for examination purpose, you need to learn, right? In exam you cannot write, sir, I will purchase software, it will only do for me. No, you need to write what is statistical sampling. Sir, audit sampling done through this approach is more scientific or not? Yes, obviously it is more scientific than testing entirely on the auditor's own judgment, because it involves use of mathematical laws of probability in determining the appropriate sample size in varying circumstances. On one you can write beautifully, Nana. See, audit sampling done with statistical sampling is more scientific. Why more scientific? Because it is more scientific than what? First of all, it is more scientific than what? It is more scientific than a mere judgment, professional judgment by the auditor. And why? Because it uses mathematical laws of probability in determining the audit sample. Yes or no? Chalo. Now, very important, market is important, my dear students. Advantages of statistical sampling. Let us read one point and understand each and every point and go further. Advantages of statistical sampling. Point number 1 is the amount of testing, in brackets sample size, does not increase in proportion to the increase in the size of the area tested. See, he is saying that, for example, initially, initially, before selection of sample, the entire population was 1,000 sale transactions. But what happened is suddenly, so you have found certain other invoices of sales, and the number went to 1,500 invoices. Okay, irrespective of the increase in the number of population units, when you use a statistical method of sampling, the sample size remains the same, my dear students. Why, sir? Why? Bacho, I have said the example of software. If you are keeping entire 1,000 from it, entire 1,000 you are keeping, or entire 1,500, whatever you are keeping in such a software, uploading it, you are selecting materiality, you are selecting Roman, and you are selecting the at least number of sample size you want to check. So it will give that much size only, no? Okay, are you able to understand? It will give that much size of samples only. Sample size will not increase. Are you able to understand when you are using statistical method? Okay, now one more example I will give you. When you thought that there were only 1,000 invoices, sales invoices as the population, you have selected only 50 invoices from it. Sir, why only 50? That much less I selected because you assessed, for example, Romum very less to the sales. As a Romum is less, you will select only less number of samples. Sir, what happened is now this 1,000 went to 1,500. Yes, Baba, even though the 1,000 went to 1,500, Romum is less or low? Sorry, less or high? Less only, no? Then you will do less amount of checking only. Less amount of checking means sample size is less only. So you will remain at 50 only. So that's what he is saying. The amount of testing, that is the sample size, does not increase in proportion to the increase in the size of the area tested when you are following which method? Statistical sampling method. But if you are following non-statistical, at a randomly you are selecting any invoices like Inky Pinky Ponky, Father as a Donkey, then definitely there is a chance of increase in the sample size. Okay, na? Chalo. Now, second feature is the sample selection is more objective and thereby more defensible. Okay, more defensible. See, okay, now the audit is completed. You have issued audit report. 2 years has been elapsed from issuing the audit report. Suddenly, a fraud has been found out in the financial statements in which you have audited before 2 years, and the income tax authority have came to you and asked, "Hey Baba, you were the auditor. How you failed to identify the fraud? Okay, this much fraud. Please show your working papers. Please show your working papers so that we can know on what basis we have given unmodified opinion." So in that working papers, there is one working paper relating to what? Relating to the procedure of selection of samples. For example, if you have used non-statistical method and you have used professional judgment of yours in selection of sample, then you may not be able to saved by the income tax people, then you will be get penalized and you may go to imprisonment also. Why, sir? Arey baba, you used non statistical method which is not at all scientific, okay na? And there is not particular basis for selection. What is the basis for selection? Means you will not say anything, sir, randomly I selected, like that like that only I selected, like that only I selected, means you will also like that only penalize you, okay na? Are you able to understand what I am saying? Are you able to catch my intention? Yes, very good, students. See, but think the second case, if you have used the statistical sampling method, then you have a base. Array sir, I have used this probability loss, or I have used this software, okay na? And I have assessed this romum, this is the materiality, and this was the sample I have obtained, okay na? And like if you show them like this, no, then they will feel satisfied and they will leave you, my dear students, even though you were unable to detect the fraud. So that's what more defensible. See, more defensible means you can defense yourself more if you select a sample on what basis, ma? Statistical sampling basis. It is more objective and thereby more defensible. So this point, remember, nana, the sample selection is more objective and more defensible. Very good. Now, the third advantage of statistical sampling is the method. Which method? The statistical sampling method provides a means of estimating the minimum sample size associated with a specified risk and precision. What did I just say? The method provides a means of estimating the minimum sample size associated with a specified risk and precision. See, before selection of audit sample, you know the risk of material misstatement, you know the materiality. Sir, if the risk of material misstatement is high, then based upon the, see, you are saying that risk of material misstatement is high, then you know that you need to do more amount of testing or less amount of testing. Yes, you need to do more amount of testing, and the software is asking you one query. What query? At least how many you want to select? At least, in that at least you will select a higher number, yes or no? See, you are selecting a higher number. That higher number, whatever you are selecting when romum is high, that is only you are able to estimate the minimum sample size or not. Yes, the method provides a means of estimating. Once again, the method provides a means or the basis for estimating the minimum sample size associated with the related specified risk and risk. Because of such a risk element only, you are able to determine such a number. Yes or no? Yes, sir. Now let us go to the fourth advantage, my dear students. Please read the fourth advantage. The fourth advantage is it provides means for deriving calculated risk and corresponding precision. Ante sampling error. It provides means for deriving calculated risks and corresponding precision. See, this is a see, the what was third point? Based upon the risk, you can select the minimum sample size. Again, vice versa. Based upon the minimum sample size, you are thinking you may also determine the calculated risk. All are vice versa points, my dear students. It provides means for deriving calculated risk and corresponding precision. Okay, now very simple. Chodo. Now, fifth one is it may provide a better description of a large mass of data than a complete examination of all data. Since non-sampling errors such as processing and clerical mistakes are not as large. So it may provide what, nana? It may provide a better description of a large mass of data than a complete examination of all data. When you select an audit sample using a statistical sampling, after that you do apply audit procedures to such samples and arrive at an opinion on such sample, then indirectly you are arriving the opinion on the entire population. So rather than checking 100% population, checking the sample selected out of the statistical sampling makes you reach at the accurate opinion. I didn't understood, sir. I will make you understand. For example, you have decided that I will not do any sampling. I will at any cost I will okay, examine entire population. Now While examining the entire population, it is a very very hectic task, very very okay now advalam task. You cannot able to do it, but you want to do it. So while in the process of checking entire 100% populations, you may you may miss out certain errors, you may miss out to catch certain frauds, because you are in a process to check it fastly as possible so that you can check 100% population. In such process, you you are missing out, as you are a human, you are not a computer software. Okay na? You are a human, and you may not able to check all invoices accurately with the same strength and stamina and knowledge. You will get exhausted, and whenever the fraud invoice is in front of you, you may not find out the fraud in it. So checking 100% population restlessly is better, or checking an audit sample and catching a fraud from it is better. Yes, checking audit sample and catching a fraud from it, if any, is a better. And therefore, and he's saying that a sample that too from the statistical method is more better than a checking of the entire data. So that's what he's saying. It may provide a better description of a large mass of data than a complete examination of all data. Okay na? Better description of large mass of data than a complete examination of all data. Now here we go, students. Now let us start non-statistical sampling. Under this approach, the sample size and its composition are determined on the basis of personal experience and knowledge of the auditor. It means whatever the sample size you want to take it, or whatever so what see out of the 1,000 invoices, the auditor on random basis he want to select any 100 invoices. But what is the basis of selecting only 100? He don't have any reason. But just like that, he want to select any 100 out of the 1,000 invoices. So the sample size and composition are determined by what, Nana? Are determined by the professional judgment of the auditor, and also the knowledge of the auditor. It is called as what, Nana? It is called as non-statistical sampling. The non-statistical sampling is criticized on the grounds that it is neither objective nor scientific. So the non-statistical sampling's a major drawback is it is not scientific and it is not objective. Whatever audit sample the auditor is selecting under this approach, there is no basis, there is no reason, there is no ground of supporting on what basis that the auditor has selected the sample, and hence it is not a perfect approach towards a audit sampling. The expected degree of objectivity, the expected degree of objectivity can't be assured in non-statistical sampling because the risk of personal bias in selection of sample items cannot be eliminated. He is saying that the degree of objectivity, see, statistical approach was very much objective. It means it has a basis on what basis you have selected the sample, that was in existing. But here there is no such basis, and hence it is not objective. Why non-statistical sampling is not becoming objective is there is a risk of personal bias in it. Sir, what is the risk of personal bias? Look at the example, or please listen to the example. If you are an auditor and you are using non-statistical sampling approach to select the sample of sales invoices, then on a random you will pick certain invoices. Okay, now you will pick certain invoices. In picking certain invoices, maybe you will pick more invoices from February, you may miss certain invoices in March, you miss certain invoices in September month, you take more of invoices from only from the March month. You don't know from which time period you are taking. There is no systematic manner of selection also. Yes or no? Yes. And hence what happens? The invoices which you have not picked up, there was no chance of selection of such invoices because you have missed out the invoices of certain months, right? And hence you have not given, you there was a not equal chance of selection for each population unit while you were selecting the audit sample. Yes or no? Yes sir. And if you look at the definition of audit sampling as per SA 530, it was saying that each and every population unit must have a equal chance of selection. Yes or no? Yes sir. See, population of audit such that all the sampling units have a chance of selection in order to provide the auditor with a reasonable basis on which to draw conclusions about the entire population. Yes or no? Yes sir. But when you go for non-statistical sampling, either directly or indirectly, knowingly or unknowingly, you may miss out certain invoices, and definitely it is defeating the basic rule of SA 530, and hence non-statistical sampling is not advisable approach. But there is a question to you all: do you think that statistical sampling is used as much as non-statistical sampling? If you are thinking yes, then you are wrong beta. In the current scenario as well, even though the technology has been raised, there are many small firms to medium firms existing, audit firms are existing, and all those audit firm partners use the non-statistical sampling method only. They randomly select. There is no basis of selection only. They randomly select. They wish they select. Okay na? But definitely non-statistical sampling is a method given in SA 530 only. But still, I believe that this method will definitely defeat the main objective of SA 530 of selecting the sample. Okay na? Chalo my dear bachcho. You have understood this, right? Non-statistical sampling? Yes sir. Let us now read about the factors to be considered in deciding upon the extent of sample size. In exam, if they ask, sir, what are the factors as an auditor you shall consider while determining the extent of sample size? It means more sample size I have to take, or less, or medium. On what basis you are going to decide it? You know that you will decide it on materiality and romum. Yes or no? Please keep note of it. And also in additional points such as size of the organization, obviously size of the organization, state of internal controls come part of romum only, risk of material misstatement only, control risk, adequacy and reliability of books and records, tolerable error range, degree of desired confidence. Okay na? So this fourth and fifth point is very very important. You need to write those 2 points. Okay na? What is fourth point, Nana? Tolerable error range. Tolerable. What is meaning of tolerable? It means what is tolerable? Tolerable means you can accept it. For example, I will take an example. If you are a teacher and there is a mischievous student in your class, he is just testing your patience from so much time while teaching the lessons in the class. He is making all mischievous activities in the classes, and you are able to accept such mischievousness from such student only up to a certain extent. Okay na? But when the students he crosses that extent, you will burst on him. Yes or no? Yes, my dear students. Then that is called as tolerability. In the audit also, there is no financial statements in the world which doesn't have no misstatements. Each and every financial statements have the misstatements in it, either material or immaterial. Up to how much extent of misstatement in the financial statement you will accept it, and above it you will not accept it. That range, that limit is called as tolerable error range. Now a perfect numerical example I will give you. You have fixed in your mind or you have written on your working paper that my tolerable error range is 5000 rupees. Okay na? While doing substantive audit procedures, you are performing analytical review procedure. For example, you have observed 10% increase trend in the sales. Okay na? And last year sales were 1 lakh. Now, the current year sales should be approximately equal to how much, Nana? 1 lakh plus 10%, yes or no? Yes, sir. 1 lakh plus 10%. 1 lakh plus 10%, how much, Nana? 1 lakh 10,000. 1 lakh 10,000 is the approximate sales that should be in current financial year sales. But in the current financial year sales, the sale amount is 1 lakh 12,000. Now we only say there is a difference of how much? 2000. What was your tolerable error range? 5000. Ante it means you can accept the variation of amount up to rupees 5000. Anything above 5000 you will treat it as a material misstatement, and hence what happened, as the difference between the actual amount and the approximate amount is less than 5000, that 2000 difference you are ready to accept it, or you are ready to tolerate it, and such 5000 is called as tolerable error range. Now the vice versa case I will give you, my dear students. If the 1 lakh 10,000 is the approximate amount and the actual amount is 1 lakh to 1 lakh 2000, it means there is a difference of how much? 8000. 8000 is more than your tolerable range, that is 5000, and hence you are not going to accept it and treat it as what? Nana? Material misstatement. So this is called as tolerable error range, and this tolerable error range also influences your sample size. Okay now, fifth one is degree of desired confidence. Okay now, fifth one is degree of desired confidence. 1 minute. Here we go, my dear students. I have brought a beautiful example and a beautiful understanding in the Google of a degree of desired confidence. Please read this. The sample's confidence level refers to the reliability the auditor places on the sample results. Confidence levels of 90% to 99% are common. A 95, this is example, a 95% confidence level means the auditor assumes the risk that 5 out of 100 samples will not reflect the true value in the population. What does it mean, my dear students? The degree of desired confidence is after the selection of the audit sample, you will place a percentage of reliability on it, and you will estimate the degree of reliance upon the sample size. It means after selection of audit sample, you are of a thought, or you are of a thinking that at least 90% of the sample units, at least 90% of the sample units shall be true and fair. It means you are indirectly saying that 10% of the sample size have a chance of what? Have a chance of a material misstatement, and there is 10% chance of risk of material misstatement, and 90% is the level of confidence upon it. So this 90% is level of confidence also influences your sample size, my dear students. Okay, did you understand the degree of confidence levels? Okay, now decide confidence upon the sample size. Again, we let us come to our short notes. Array, whatever short notes I am giving, that is completely from ICI, my dear students. And please follow those notes if you want to follow. Okay, na? 100% guarantee. Nice notes they are. Okay, na? Now. Now our next topic is sample design, comma, size and selection of items for testing. Sir, whatever the sample units out of the population units you want to select, what shall be the design of the sample, what shall be the size, And how are you going to select the items for testing? For that you have certain methods, my dear students. Methods for designing the sample. Wait a minute, sir. I am not able to understand the word sample design. I will give you one example relating to the sample design. See, you all know about sample size. Ante means how much up to, what is the extent to be checked. That is sample size. Sir, what is no sample design? Sample design means, for example, there is an auditor who has selected a sample in a such a way that it consists of four groups, four individual groups. In the four individual groups, there are at least 100 sample points, or you can call it as sample units. Okay na, each 100 units is forming a part of one group. So this, what is sample design? If anyone asks in this case, sir, what is sample design? So sample design is in such a way that the sample consists of four groups, and each group consists of 100 sample points, and each and the auditor shall perform audit for the whole such 100 units, and such all such 100 units have an equal probability. Okay na, that is the sample design I am talking about, not the sample size, my dear students. See, when you study about the methods, following two methods, and whatever example I will give you, that you will understand now, then you will definitely understand what exactly sample design is. If in exam they will ask you methods for designing sample, then you need to write, sir, there are two methods for designing the sample. Method number one is stratification. What is method number one? Stratification. And method number two is value weighted selection. Value weighted selection. Okay, Nana? Method number one is stratification, and the method number two is value weighted selection. Let us now talk about stratification. The process of dividing a population. Once again, my dear students, the process of dividing a population into subpopulation, each of which is a group of sampling units which have similar characteristics. The objective is to reduce the variability of items within each stratum, and therefore allow sample size to be reduced without increasing sampling risk. Okay na, each by word I am going to explain you, Nana. Again, the process. What is the process? So it is a process of what? Stratification is a process of what, Nana? Dividing a population into subpopulation. See, visualize each and everything, you have to visualize. There is a population of 1,000 invoices, and what have you done? You have divided the 1,000 invoices population into different types of groups. So how many number of groups? I will explain you, Nana. See, what happen, you can divide the sample size into like this. For example, for example, sales are there. Okay na, one there are certain sales related to material X, there are certain sales related to material Y, there are certain sales related to material Z. So what you can do, you can prepare three groups, classify all the material X sale transaction in one group, material Y sale transaction in another group, material Z sale transactions in one more third group, so that you have three groups from, you have formed three groups in it. Okay na, now that's what he's saying, the process of dividing population into subpopulations, each of which, comma you see a comma, each of which, at each group of sampling units have similar characteristics. You only say first group contains of which transactions, material X transactions, all the transactions are similar, and group 2 transactions are what, Nana? All material Y. You only say material Y sale transaction and material X are similar. No. Okay na, now these three groups contain sample units which have what, Nana? Which have similar characteristics, and you need to select some certain samples from group 1, certain samples from group 2, certain samples from group 3, so that sale transactions of all the three materials, you are able to check it. What happens, sir, if I don't follow stratification method and just like that I select from the given population of 1000? What happens is there might be a chance. There might be a chance of selecting only material X transactions and leaving material Y and material Z transactions in your sample. There might be chance that you are selecting only material X and material Y, and there may be chance that only material X and material Y transactions have been selected, or there may be chance that material X transactions are more and material Y are very less and material Z are only few. So there is no proper selection of transactions, okay, now from each characteristics of transactions. What is SA 530 definition saying? Each and every population unit must have equal chance of selection, and definitely there are three characteristic types of transactions. Then from all the three characteristic types of transaction, each and every sample units must have an equal chance there. Then only you can check those samples and then form opinion on the entire population. See, if you are just selecting sample randomly without stratification in such case, and what happens is you are selecting only material X transactions or material X and Y transactions and leaving material Z transactions. What happens is without checking material Z transactions only, you are forming opinion on material Z transactions also by getting opinion on material X and material Y. How far it is accurate, I am saying you. So whenever as an auditor you identify certain characteristics, different types of characteristic transactions in a particular account balance or in a particular transactions, then please categorize all populations, the population into subpopulations containing the sample points or sample units having similar characteristics, and then from each group select samples randomly and then do the uh, apply the audit procedures to it, okay na. So when stratification is used, when different types of characteristics are seen or observed in the transactions, okay na. Again, the objective is to reduce the variability of items. Variability of items, that only, my dear students, material X and material Y samples, what happen is there is one material X transaction, there is one material Y transaction, there is a huge variability in it. There is a huge variable in it, and hence as you are grouping it in different groups and then selecting samples from all the three groups, then definitely variability is reduced within each stratum and therefore allow sample size to be reduced without increasing sampling risk. Sir, what is sampling risk? I will explain what is sampling risk. Selection of a sample, okay na. You are selecting a sample, you are testing such samples and forming opinion on the entire population. For example, whatever sample you have selected is not appropriate, is not complete, or is not reliable, okay na. Then what happens is the opinion you formed on entire population shall be inappropriate. That is called as sampling risk. So sampling is very 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 important task, my dear students. Even though you have very much knowledge and you have very much expert in catching the frauds, if the sample is not appropriate, you cannot catch hold the fraud. The sample should be in a designed, the sample size should be in such a design such that each sample unit have a chance of selection, okay na, as a sample. And as you know, in my sales there are three different characteristic types of transactions, and hence I divided it by using stratification method. I divided into subpopulations into three different groups having sampling units. मजा आएगा, okay ना. So that is called a stratification method, my dear students. Again, we will read the process of dividing a population into subpopulation, each of which is a group of sampling units which have similar characteristics. The objective is to reduce the variability of items within each stratum and therefore allow the sample size to be reduced without increasing the sampling risk. Understood the sampling risk? Very good. Now, value weighted selection. What is value weighted selection? When performing test of details, it may be efficient to identify the sampling units as the individual monetary units that make up a population. What it's saying, once I can read, sir, I will. When performing test of details, it means what? Substantive audit procedures. It may be efficient to identify the sampling units as a individual monetary units that make up a population. Allotting specific monetary weights to all items in a population, then selecting those items which are having larger weights and therefore sample size also reduces. My dear students, value weighted selection. What is value weighted selection? Heading itself selling. Putting a value to each okay now population unit and those selecting those sample population units which are having larger value, for example okay no for example I I take 1 lakh as a common factor. Okay, na? I take 1 lakh as a common factor. And the sale amount of a particular entity, largest sale amount incurred during the financial year by the particular entity, for example, is 10 lakhs. And the lowest one is 1 lakh itself. So the lowest one I am taking as a common factor 1 lakh. Okay na, it means 1 lakh to 10 lakh is the range of sale amounts. It means all the sales invoices of the entities sales invoices contains the sale amount which is not less than 1 lakh and which is not more than 10 lakhs. Are you able to understanding? Yes, sir. Each and every sale invoice in the population okay, contains an amount which is not less than 1 lakh and not more than 10 lakhs. That is the range. Yes or no? Yes, sir. Now we will try to allow to the factors to it. The invoices which are showing 1 lakh as a sale amount, to them the factor you will keep as only 1. For invoices which are showing 2 lakhs as a sale amount, invoices which are showing 2 lakhs as a sale amount, you will give a factor number 2. 3 lakhs 3, 4 lakhs 4, 5 lakhs 5, 6 lakhs 6, 7 lakhs 7, 8 lakhs 8, 9 lakhs 9, 10 lakhs 10. Like this you will number each and every invoice. And the invoice which is showing the larger factor, it is also influenced by the materiality and the romum which you have assessed. Showing the larger number shall be selected so that sample size to be tested is automatically reduced and you are selecting the material transactions. Okay na? Yes or no? Yes sir. So value weighted selection also you can use it. Okay na? This methods for designing stratification and value weighted selection. Objective of these methods is to reduce the sample size and also reduce what sampling risk also. Whenever you identify characteristic features in a particular type of transactions, use stratification. If there are no such characteristics, you may also use value weighted selection. Okay nana, so once again read nana. When performing test of details, it may be efficient to identify the sampling units as the individual monetary units that makes up a population. So it is efficient to identify the each and every sampling unit as an individual monetary unit that make up the population, allotting specific monetary weights to all items in a population, then selecting those items which are having larger weights and therefore sample size also reduces. Yes or no? Yes or no? Now we are almost at the end, my dear students. Don't get bored, be patient and learn. There is no hurry. Be patient and learn. Now, sample size. Sample size. What is the definition of sample size? Sample size depends on level of sampling risk the auditor wants to take. Factors affecting the determination of sample size. What did I write here? Depends upon the sample size, the size of the sample. In previous page we have learned about the sample design and there are two methods of designing the sample. Now we are learning about the sample size. Now the SF 530 is saying or stating that so let us start Nana. Where were we? Yeah. Sample size depends on level of sampling risk the auditor wants to take. Sampling risk. Okay na. Sir, what is sampling risk? Sampling risk, I said previously only, no. See, after selection of a sample, after performing the applying substantive audit procedure to the sample and obtaining comfort on the assertions, whatever opinion you are forming, that opinion becoming inappropriate, that is called as sampling risk. So if the auditor wants to accept or wants to tolerate more amount of risk, then he will put his sampling risk as high and reduce the sample size. But if auditor has assessed the risk of material misstatement as per SA 315 as high, then he want to test more amount, of test, he want to do more amount of testing, and hence his sample size shall be more, and to put the sample size as more, his sampling risk shall be less. Okay na. Now let us now study the factors affecting the determination of sample size. So what are the factors which are affecting the determination of sample size? Factor number 1, an increase in number of sampling units in the population. Obviously, when there is an increase in the number of sampling units in the population, then what is the effect on the sample size? Sir, the effect on the sample size is negligible effect. What, sir? Sir, if population increases, definitely our sample should increase. Are beta, one point you have studied near statistical sampling advantages, that proportionate increase in the population shall not affect the size of the sample size. Yes or no? Yes. And I have given a valid example there also. If you have remembered the example, very good, Nana. Okay, na? An increase in number of sampling units in the population have the negligible effect. Very good. So factor number 2, what is the factor number 2? The factor number 2 is an increase in tolerable rate of deviation and a tolerable rate of range of error. You have decided, no, earlier we have studied in the factors affecting the extent of the sample size. Fourth point, tolerable error range. Yes, if the tolerable error range, whatever you are keeping, if you are keeping your tolerable error range more, then definitely the sample size shall decrease. Okay na. If the tolerable error range is increased from 5,000 to 10,000, the number of samples to be selected shall be decreased or increased comparatively when compared with 5,000. Definitely it will decrease. Very good, my dear students, because you are taking more amount of risk over there. Now we will go fatafat. Third one is an increase in a desired level of confidence. My dear students, it is vice versa of tolerable error range. When there is an increase in the desired level of confidence on the population or on the sample, you only say what is the effect on the sample size. Okay na. What is the effect on the sample size? The effect on the sample size will increase. So an increase in the desired level of confidence. Okay na. An increase in the desired level of confidence assurance will increase the sample size. Why, sir? My level of confidence is increasing, then I should decrease? No, my dear students. When your confidence is more and you are decreasing the sample size, it will become not confidence, it will become overconfidence. So never you should go with overconfidence. Whenever your desired level of confidence or assurance increases, please increase your sample size. When you are taking more amount of risk, that is more amount of tolerable error range, then you are decreasing it. Okay na. Please think the vice versa of tolerable error range when the point desired level of assurance or confidence comes into the picture. The fourth point is increase in ROMM. What is ROMM? As per SA 315. What is ROMM? Risk of material misstatement. If there is an increase in the risk of material misstatement, amount of testing will be more, and hence sample size is increased. Okay na. Now point number 5. What is point number 5? An increase in the expected rate of deviation. An increase in the expected rate of deviation. Okay, then what happens, Nana? The sample size increase. the sample size get increased. And increase in the expected rate of deviation, it means you have fixed a particular standard deviation point. From the standard deviation, if your sample units are deviating more, then definitely the effect on sample size is more, that is you are increasing the sample size. So what are the factors affecting the determination of sample size? Means you have to present the answer like this: factors effect on sample size, increase in number of sampling units population, negligible effect. And increase in the tolerable rate of deviation, decrease. And increase in the desired level of confidence, increase. Increase in ROMM, increase. And increase in the expected rate of deviation, it is increase. Please remember the 5 points. And increase in the number of sampling units, negligible effect. And increase in the tolerable rate of deviation, and increase in the desired level of confidence. All are increase, nowhere decrease I am talking. Where if increase in tolerable, then we have to decrease. Then vice versa, decrease is increase for the third point. Fourth one, increase in ROMM, increase. And increase in the expected rate of deviation also increase. Okay, understood? Very good. Chalo. Now we are at the end of the topic, my dear students. Okay, na? We are at the end of the topic. Let us start. Yeah. Okay. The principal methods of selecting samples through statistical method. Initially, we have discussed one method. What is that method, Nana? Statistical method. Sir, for statistical method is scientific method, use of mathematical probability, etc. You have said to me. Sir, what are the methods available under the statistical method which helps us in selecting the sample? Now from here you are going to study about the methods available under the statistical method, which acts as a tool, or the methods which assist the auditor for selection of audit sample under statistical method, my dear students. Okay na? Chalo. Let us start. Yeah. Now the first method is random sampling. Random sampling ensures that all items in the population or a stratum have an equal chance of selection. It may involve use of random tables. See, random tables, etc. What the words I am using, उसके बारे में जानना, the information regarding that is irrelevant to you according to your portion, but just use the word random tables there. Okay na? That is in depth, advanced, you have to go there, and it is not at all necessary right now. So random sampling means, once a random sampling ensures that each and every population unit has a equal chance of selection in the sample, and it may involve use of dash tables. Sir, it may involve use of random tables. Random sampling involve use of dash tables, random sampling involve use of random tables. Okay na? Chalo. Now the yellow, again there are further two methods. Apart from random method, we have further two methods. Okay na? Under the statistical method only. One is simple random sampling, nothing but the above one only. Okay na? Now the second one is monetary unit sampling. The monetary unit sampling is nothing one in a second method in the design you have studied. Yes or no? In sample design you have studied the second method. See, value weighted method. The same is the monetary unit method. Value weighted method, we are allotting one individual monetary unit to each and every sampling unit and selecting the larger one so that the sample size is decreased, etc. We are studying. No, that itself is that. Now third one is what, sir? So monetary unit sampling, which we have studied in a second method of a sample designing. Same that only. Okay na? And the third method is block sampling. Okay na? What is the third method, sir? Third method is block sampling. Block sampling is application of audit procedures to items, all of which occurred in the same block of time or sequence of accounts. What you are saying, sir? See, block means what? Groups. Okay, now you are dividing a population into different number of groups, or you can call as different number of blocks, and each block is containing the sample units which have similar, okay, now characteristics, you can say, or similar features. Arey sir, this we have seen, Ray. You have seen in first method of sample design. What was it? Stratification. So stratification and block sampling are very much similar, my dear students. Okay, na? Now, systematic sampling. Next one is what, sir? Systematic sampling. Number of sampling units divided by the sample size provides the intervals. It means in under the systematic sampling, what are you doing, sir? Under systematic sampling, number of sampling units divided. What happened? Divided. Number of sampling units divided by the sample size provides the intervals. If you are not able to see that, please record it as intervals, my dear students. Okay, now in a particular population you want to create certain intervals, my dear students. For example, the sample size to be taken by you is determined of 1000. You want to select any 1000 invoices. Okay, na? Very good, sir. You want to select any 1000 invoices, and you, what happened is, okay, na? And in the population, for example, in the total population there are 10,000 invoices. Now divide 10,000 divided by 1000, how much, nana? 10. It means for every 10 invoices, they are making one interval, my dear student. Interval of 10. A first 10 one group, or a second 10, or a next 10. Such a systematic sampling, systematic approach you are giving by providing intervals. So remember this, number of sampling units divided by the sample size provides the intervals. Like that you need to remember. So what are the methods? Simple random sampling method, monetary unit method is equal to the value weighted method, block sampling method is equal to what, nana? Stratification. Systematic sampling is dividing the number of sampling units by sample size and providing the intervals. Okay, na? My dear students, I will give one more example for block sampling. He is saying that block of time and or sequence of accounts. For example, you are, suppose there are no characteristic features available to group the population into different types. So then how you can do block sampling, my dear students? See, nana, block sampling means, for example, you will create 12 blocks. Why 12 blocks? In a year there are how many months, nana? 12 months. Very good. You will create 12 blocks, and out of the first example, first month is April. Now April month transactions, for example, there are 1000 sale transaction in April. In that you will select a few. Again from May you select a few. Again from June, July, August, so on. Okay, now you will select, divide, you have divided each and every month as a block and selecting certain items or sample units from it. Okay, now that is called as block sampling. That is called as block sampling. That's what is occurred in the same block of time or sequence of accounts. Okay, now systematic sampling over, block sampling over, monetary unit sampling over, simple random sampling over, and one more method is there under statistical sampling, my dear students. That method is called as haphazard. What, sir? Haphazard sampling. Okay, na? That is called as haphazard sampling. What is haphazard sampling? Selection of samples without following a structured technique. Equal non-statistical sampling. So selection of samples, my dear students, selection of sample without following a structured technique equal to non-statistical sampling. So haphazard sampling is equal to non-statistical sampling. In previous 4 methods, in random method, on random basis you are doing okay. Again in a monetary value method you are providing certain monetary, providing a proper structure, providing a proper size or design to the sample, and they are selecting the sample. And also under and also Under the block sampling, you are providing a proper design and selecting the sample. Systematic sampling, also in a systematic approach, you are designing the sample and selecting the sample. But haphazard sampling is equal or similar to non-statistical sampling. Non-statistical sampling involved the professional judgment of the auditor, okay na, in the process of selection, okay na, and the same goes here. The haphazard sampling under statistical method is very much similar to or equal to, we can say, non-statistical sampling, and there is no structure technique. What is structure technique? And we are not providing a proper systematic design to the sample, as the case in the last four methods. So selection of samples without following a structure technique equal to non-statistical sampling, my dear students. With this, we have successfully completed the essay 530 sampling, audit sampling. And if you liked my explanation, please like the video, and if you didn't like my explanation and my notes, please dislike the video and write the reason for improvement, any improvement, in the comment section, my dear students. And if you liked it, also like it and share to your dear ones, okay na. Sharing is caring, my dear students. Thank you very much.